Got the Canadian flag, it might make a nice opening scene. There we go. This is what Leanne wears when she's getting dressed up to go out. Now we're still at the Jasper Park Lodge. What we're looking at here, see the little dot on the top of that mountain, that's the Jasper tramway. I'm going to zoom in a little on that. That's where we're going. We're going to go right up there. So I think it must actually face the other way. A bit shaky, but there you go. That's where we're going to go. Right up the top.
Should I have it on speed order or what?
It's a squirrel we just saw. It's trying to. He went into the. I think he went into these rocks here. I doubt very much I'll be able to see him. So he went into that hole. There's a few holes. There's a hole there. And so that's where he's disappeared into. Yeah, so can I. Yeah, wish I. At least we did get that black squirrel on film, so that's good.
There's a lot. Oh my. Oh, neat.
This should lift you out here.
Oh my heavens. I've got many of them.
Where are they?
Right here.
You see them?
Yay.
Okay.
Beautiful. I don't want to.
If anybody wants to try and get a photo through the front door window, you're more than welcome to come down onto the...
Okay, what we're looking at here are the workings for the Jasper tramway, which we're about to go on. There's like the engine room.
Yeah.
Move over this way.
And he really takes that many.
Sausage swaying in the wind when
There's a big space back here for you to look on that side. Oh my God. Alright, don't worry.
Hey, he's standing at the side now. No, I'll let you Why? You still die just the same.
Yes, but at least you die feeling better.
Could you just lock that carabiner onto the door handle? Just the green thing in the rope. Just lock that onto the red door handle. Just at the metal bit at the bottom, you'll find it probably easier. Thank you.
no one else wanted to see it. Would you like to
Control car 2?
get off the Latin road?
Jasper tramway.
2, 3.
I'd love it.
Here we go.
They do.
She's looking at everybody's way. Okay folks, my name is Jamie. I'm going to be your tour guide today as we ascend Whistler's Mountain. It's the most northern peak on the Trident mountain range. We're travelling at a speed of 6 metres a second or 13 miles an hour. We've just left at base elevation of 4,300 feet, and when we get to the top it'll be 7,500 feet. I'm going to be describing the landscape and just some of the surroundings we have. Before I begin, I'm going to give you your bearings. Out the car here to my left is the west. Out the back of the car there is north. To to my right is east, and we're travelling south up Whistler's Mountain. I'll begin with the mountain ranges. Looking at to the left then, in the distance there you'll see the Yellowhead mountain range. We're quite lucky with the visibility today, you can make out most of the mountains on that range. Generally in a cloudy day that's almost invisible to us. The range is important for a couple of reasons. First of all, it serves as part of the continental divide. That means the water on the west side flows out to the Pacific Ocean, and the water on the east side, which is us, flows out to the Arctic Ocean. It also serves as part of the border between BC and Alberta, and it's home to the highest peak in the Canadian Rockies, which is Mount Robson at just under 13,000 feet. Typically Mount Robson is quite difficult to see, just because first of all it's on the BC side of the divide, and secondly, as I mentioned, fogs generally cloud over that mountain range as it is, and because of its height, it's kind of tricky to see. That said, at the top there's panels with explanatory basically diagrams, so you might be able to point it out from there. The next range then, if you look out the back left of the car, is the Northwest Range. That's the Victoria Cross mountain range, named after the Victoria Cross, which is the highest award in the British Commonwealth Army for bravery. Most of the peaks along that range are named after recipients of the VC. One main exception is the tall peak at the end. That's Pyramid Mountain, which as you can probably guess was named because it reminded people of the Egyptian pyramids. Moving along then to the northeast here, see the Colin mountain range, named after Colin Fraser, who was a caretaker in the Jasper House Mountains in the 1800s. Probably the most notable peak in this range is the Roc Bonhomme, which is French for Old Man Mountain, so called because the rock outline looks a bit like an old man's face. I'll try and point this one out for you. If you see there's an IV cut into the tree line, and then directly above is where the man's face should be. You might be able to see the eye, the nose and maybe the jawline. If you can't see it, don't feel too bad about it. I had to go up and down the scar 4 weeks before I saw it first time. And again, there's panels at the top to help you see it. We're just going to go over the tower, there'll be just a slight bump. There we go. Okay, the last mountain range then, to my right and east, is the Malines mountain range. That was named by a French priest. He tried to cross a river in the 1800s again and almost drowned, as did his horse. So he called it Malines, which is French for wicked. The first peak we have in this range, the one with the kind of rounded top, is called Signal Mountain. So called because there used to be a forest fire signal tower on the top of there until it burned down. Immediately below that we have the Athabasca River. That's the longest river in Alberta. It stretches down 6,000 kilometres to the Arctic Ocean. And it starts about 100 kilometres south from here at the Columbia Icefields. It's the icefields that actually give it that bluish grey colour. You can kind of contrast that with the other lake, which runs from the west to the east. You might be able to see it out the back of the car, or to the right. That's the Miette River. You'll notice that's a lot darker, a little bit more brown. That's because it carries a lot of sediment from the mountains, especially this time of year when you've got a lot of snow through it. Okay, I'm going to point out some lakes now. Below Roc Bonhomme, to my right, you'll see 3 large lakes in a row. The one closest to us is Lac Pauvert, which is French for beautiful green. That's home of Jasper Park Lodge, and to the right of it you'll see Jasper Golf Course, which is consistently rated one of the top golf courses in Canada. And they had a bear sighting on the 8th hole the other day, so they are out and about somewhere. The other 2 lakes behind that are Lake Edith and Lake Annette. Very popular in the summertime because they both have beaches and they both get quite a lot of the sun. It's quite good at this time of year, especially with the winter thawing out and spring starting, just to contrast the lakes. The ones I just pointed out you'll notice are pretty much thawed. If you had the desire to, you could go swimming, although I would recommend it because it'll still be freezing. The ones at the middle of the car, you'll see the one with the island in the middle is Pyramid Lake, in front of that is Patricia. You'll notice they're almost thawed, but there's still some ice around the middle. And then if you look at the back left of the car, there's 3 large lakes in a row which are pretty much completely frozen. In due part to the fact that they don't get as much sun, and also because they're at just a higher altitude than the ones down below. Looking out of the car now, you'll notice that the tree line is more or less dissipated. We're in now what's called the Alpine Zone. It's a lot harder for vegetation to grow up here. Any trees that do typically won't grow too high, maybe, as you can probably see some out here to the left, there's some a couple of foot, maybe 3 foot if you're lucky. These are called Krüppelholz, which is German for crippled wood. They only get about a centimetre to a centimetre and a half growing a year just because of the harsher conditions, although some of these trees may be up to about 200 years old.
Wow.
Some of the wildlife you might see up this side of the mountain, it's a lot more sparse, as I'm sure you can understand. But you might see some pine martens, just larger, more aggressive foxes really. You also see some hoary marmot. The marmot actually give the mountain its name. When they feel threatened, they stand up and whistle, hence Whistler's Mountain. I'll point out some tracks when we get up to the top as well. These are actually larger tracks than what we're used to seeing up here. We think it might be a wolverine or potentially a couple of wolves. I'll point them out when we get here. In the meantime, I'd just like to remind you we are in a national park, so take nothing but photos and leave nothing but footprints. If you do see any wildlife, be it a wolverine or a marmot, Keep your distance. Definitely don't feed them, that's probably a bad idea. We should be quite close to these tracks now, I'll try and point them out. Okay, if you look out to the left, yeah, you can kind of see them starting up at the top here and then they go round the mountain. And if you go up the boardwalk on the left hand side, you'll get to see there's another 2 or 3 tracks kind of going up and around this area. Okay, the facilities we have on the top and the ground floor, we have a couple of washrooms as well as a...
Well, it's snowing. There is snow here. Probably just make it out.
It's okay, I got enough with this way.
Oh, it's pretty amazing view from here. So Jasper's back there. Just pan around here. And we'll probably go for a bit of a walk up there. Alright, Leanne, here we are at the top of Mount Whistler, or Whistler's Mountain, isn't it? Because of the marmots it's called. Apparently they whistle. And here we are in the snow, and it's very cold. What do you think, Leanne? Are you enjoying this?
Yep.
We had a little snow a few minutes ago, still snowing a little bit, but not too much. We're going to have a little bit of a walk up here. I doubt very much that we'll even get anywhere near the top because it is quite a long way, but there are some people up there. So I'm going to turn the camera off and put it in the bag now because I don't want it to get wet or cold. So maybe take some more video shortly. Okay, so we made it about a quarter of the way. Halfway. It doesn't look very far, but it is. We're around 9,500 feet. So the oxygen runs out at 12,000 feet, so we're pretty high up. Pretty amazing. I'll switch to auto. Let's do a 360-degree turn around here.
It gives you an appreciation for people who go mountain climbing, hey?
Oh yes.
They must be.
Yep.
Because they climb all day and then they sleep in those hammocks slung up
Yep.
in places.
There's Leanne. Feeling the cold?
No, pretty warm now.
So we're not too far from the summit. There is actually somebody... Oh, I keep pressing the still button by accident. There's somebody who's at the top. It's finishing the 360-degree turn. There we go. So we're trying to do that in one smooth motion now. Pretty amazing. That's some snow over there. It's falling out of the sky. There's a 360. We're still on top of the mountain here, just focusing down on Jasper. There's Jasper and the train lines. You can see the rail yards are pretty large, pretty well the length of the town. Our hotel is just there in the centre of the picture. That's our hotel.